Hi, welcome to Free Spirit, and welcome to a special deck collection video and an answer to a question that's been coming up in the comments a lot. I always get like, how did my love for tarot even start? And what decks did I actually start with? So my journey was actually a little different because I didn't set out necessarily to learn tarot or learn the meanings of the cards or that. What came first for me were spirit messages. So I know I share that on the channel, but when I was a child, I always got spirit messages. I used to be more of an auto writer because I wouldn't be able to get it all unless I wrote it down. Now I can just rattle it off or just remember it. But back there, and I also remember all my spirit messages rhymed. I was like Dr. Seuss of spirit. Anyway, I was a little strange because anytime I repeated it, I didn't have a lot of support around me that really encouraged that kind of thing. No one in my family was spiritual in the slightest. So I basically would write it down, and I have binders filled of spirit messages from when I was a kid. And I remember sharing it with family friends, and they were just like, okay, like, just keep that to yourself. Like, they were just too profound for a child. And then growing up, you know, it wasn't really welcomed, I have to say. So I kept a lot to myself. That's why I say when I started this channel, I had a lot of fear in sharing everything because it wasn't exactly encouraged when I was a child. So let's start there. So now, when I was younger, and this is going to age me, I know I sound young, look young, but this is going to age me. We didn't necessarily have tarot and oracle shops, and I live in a large city, but it wasn't mainstream. And so I remember being a kid, so the spirit messages came first. So I want to make that clear because my very first tarot deck I got when I was a kid. I must have been like a preteen. And, well, I'll show you what it was. It was a Gypsy Witch fortune-telling cards, but this is a new deck I just haven't even opened or used because the actual deck that I have used since I was a preteen is this one, where you can see it is so used that you can't even really see. It's just really a used deck because I used this crazily all through my preteen years. So what I found, I bought this, it must have been, look at this card. It must have been a candy shop or something, and it caught my eye. And the minute I started using it, this is a very elaborate, this is from, it's like a Lenormand deck, but it's different. It's very elaborate spreads. But I got the meanings are right on the cards. It's worn off now. But what would happen was, because the spirit messages came first, I wasn't necessarily reading the card. I was trying to connect with the energy of what I was getting in my spirit messages, like whether it was my spirit guides and the energy that I was familiar with when I was hearing spirit messages. I was trying to connect with immediately higher to that energy. So I felt like I was doing a reading connecting to that energy. And for many years, this was my deck in my preteen when I was a kid. And look at this Joker card. Okay, so this is the Gypsy fortune-telling deck. This is the new one. I found it recently on Amazon. I was like, oh my God, that's my deck. You can get it for decades. I don't know where it went. But so as a kid, this was my deck. Now, I actually am glad I learned this way of how to read cards because the spreads in here were so elaborate. You had to do a mini circle, a large circle, what's the influencing cards. I think it actually, in hindsight, allowed me to do, you know how I only do free form readings. I don't do spreads in my tarot and oracle readings to this day. It's very free form, and I also use a slew of decks. I'm very comfortable with using a lot of cards and decks and get the relationship and what's trying to come forth in the message and how it relates, because my training on my very first deck was this deck, and it is such elaborate spreads. It was ridiculous. But I used to go home, and this was a very private thing. I don't think I told anybody that I read cards, and I would read cards. So anytime I had a question, and then I would see in my life how that card's playing out. Like I would get bad news, something happening. I was like, oh, there's that card. Here's my good news. Here's my love coming in. Here's my, so it was very, very on target. So that started my trust in the cards. And trust with what I'm connecting to when I'm using the cards. It helped me with my relationship, meaning how I do the spreads. It formed me, it shaped me. Okay, so this, but I wouldn't even call this a tarot deck or it's a gypsy. It's more Lenormand based, but it stands on its own because it's not even a genuine Lenormand deck. But this was what I got, and I believe it was in a candy store when I was a preteen. So going right back. So then you graduate, right? So somewhere down the line, I got the Angel Tarot. Now this was really big when it came out. This was Doreen Virtue and Radley Valentine, and since then I prefer, actually, if given the choice, it's interesting, this came out first. I really gravitated the Archangel Power. I use it to this day. But both of them, and I recommend these to, real brand new beginners, you don't know tarot at all. I always say this Angel Tower, I mean, she was giving courses. This was a big deal. This was a gilded deck back in the day. This all has the meanings right on the cards. Everything's color coded. I've gone through this deck a million times, but it's all angels in here, and you don't have to know tarot at all. And it's all angels in here. And this had silver gilding, which I adored. So it felt like, when I got this, it felt like a candy jewel deck. I mean, I thought it was so aesthetically beautiful. So I put this in a special glitter box. I remember I had all my Doreen Virtue. Then it just set me off in the Doreen Virtue rabbit hole. Like once I got the Angel deck, and I'm sure there's a lot of people reading up on this, if you're a little older, when the Angel deck came out, okay, first, this came later, the Angel, then I had the Archangel. So I started really gravitating to that energy. Like I said, like the spirit messages came first. So I was always looking to connect with the cards. It was to connect with what I felt directly. And so I wasn't just trying to read cards for the sake of reading cards. I was doing it, I remember, always for the primary purpose of connecting higher. So whether it was my spirit guides, the energy I was already familiar with. So I always gravitated to the Angel, Archangel. So I was like, move over, Gypsy. I'm going to the Angel, Archangels. And you can go, then I got messages from the angels. You had angel therapy, and you have angels of abundance. I mean, you could just go down, and I had goddess guidance. I have videos showing all the Doreen Virtue decks, because I just went down the Doreen Virtue rabbit hole where I got every Doreen Virtue deck. And I would come home, I had a glitter box. This shows my teenage 20s. Okay, a glitter box that had all my Doreen Virtue decks. And when I would come home, unwind, whenever I had my tarot reading time, I'd tune into the cards and get the messages, and I would use every deck I had. So I was used to a lot of cards and a lot of messages, and that's what I would do, okay? So, but then from the Angel, I really love the Archangel. I've shown this. This had gold gilding. You don't have to know tarot at all. Also, it's color-coded. I show this all the time, and I still use these to this day. I actually use the Archangel power more than the Angel now. I find the images I resonate more with the images. The messages are right here, color-coded. You don't have to know tarot at all. Like I tell people, you can buy any one of these decks and instantly do a reading. It's right here. It's color-coded. You're going to learn tarot that way. It correlates to the Rider-Waite. So you can learn this way, and it's just as accurate as with a Rider-Waite-Smith. I can honestly say that after decades of using both. So if people say, like, what did I love traditionally of a Rider-Waite-Smith? I never really was a true lover of the true, authentic Rider-Waite-Smith. Like, the minute I learned the cards came really naturally. I think in like 2 days, like just looking at the imagery, I don't even remember which one was my first Rider-Waite-Smith, because I learned on these and it just immediately translated, and I also got the imagery, like I got it. It was just another language like you pick up, okay? But then I immediately jumped to more different artwork to be my personal decks. I remember that. Like I quickly jumped. None of these were something I consistently used personally for myself, but oh gosh. This was the Tarot of AE Waite, which I adore. This version, this is the Pebble Back, and this was the first edition that actually came out. Like when it first came out, the Tarot of the AE Waite, this is what it looked like when it was on the market. So I resonated with that. Like I wanted that deck. This deck, the minute I started using it though, I have to say, it was like an automatic conversation. Like, so this always will have a special love in my heart because I remember the feeling of when I worked with this deck first, that it instantly connected to me. So that started my love. I got the cards. This was very crisp imagery of all the Rider-Waite-Smith. I really adored this version, and I adored that on the backs of the cards, it says on this one, it literally is the colors and backside of the cards according to the first edition from 1909. And I just really loved that. And there was something magical from the beginning of just how quickly the Rider-Waite-Smith, this version was very clear to me. And I was having like full-on conversations practically with it. So it made me connect immediately with the Rider-Waite-Smith. I understood the artwork. I understood it. It just was a boom. But then the minute that it did connect, I got off that to use as my own personal. I remember this Fenestra, you could see from the shape of the box, this Fenestra tarot, there was something so beautiful. Now this started jet setting the artwork to me, like that I could find artwork that just, okay, that's me. Okay, so there was something, I've always had a connection with roses, and this deck had these roses. So it almost felt like Spirit made me find this deck, like roses, like this could be your new personal, like instead of this gypsy witch that's all worn, like this could be my personal. So for many years, and it's so soft and soothing, and I know I've said this a lot, that I prefer images that, and when I do a reading, I want to be calm and receptive because I'm receiving. I want to be open channel. And so when it comes to artwork, I prefer things that I'm not reacting to the artwork at all. And something about the tones, and it's all just beautiful. And I loved on the major arcanas, it had this here. I mean, I just thought this was such a beautiful, and even the tower, it's not so jolting to me. So I really, I got in another world with these, and it was a very smooth conversation reading whenever I used this deck. And I just always thought it was such a soft, lovely aesthetic. And it was almost, yeah, I'm almost like my eyes are half open when I get into such a relaxed state. I think it's because of the tones. But the Fenestra Tower, and it's called Fenestra because it's like you're looking in a window. But I thought it was really a beautiful deck, and I loved the roses here. And again, like the backs of the cards. So I think this started my love of like artwork, things that felt like me. So I quickly jumped from a Rider-Waite-Smith to that. And another thing with the Rider-Waite-Smith, I liked things with, I had mentioned before, like foil. And I remember loving the Golden Universal. You know, so I love Rider-Waite-Smith, but I love it when it's like foil, some shimmer. These were the backs of the cards. But, and this has blue skies all around, and it's sparkle, you know, I like that. So I always liked something with my cards, whether it was angels, archangels, or foil, a little something. But my love for tarot began first with spirit messages, and I think I gravitated to the cards because I figured this could be a way for me to connect and get those messages this way, like a form, like I'm providing the words and the images for that energy to connect more in another way with me. And that's always where I came from. So that's why you find this channel, like I give free, you know, spirit message, free spirit messages, and free spirit readings, because it's like one and the same. Like I used it as a line to communicate, and then from there, you know, I created my own decks to reflect like what I've gotten personally with the spirit messages. And I use like those free spirit cards that just have the spirit messages on it with the natural pictures. It was just another mode of conversation, another mode of communication. So I've always looked at it, I always knew what I was communicating to, and so I always looked at it as a channel of communication. So I may differ from other people, because I know other people, they're looking to just literally read the cards, but I always looked at it as another mode of communication, like let me provide these cards, these images, let's see what they want to bring forth for me. Like instead of me receiving the spirit message and writing it down. So that's how, because I was a kid, that's how I've always looked at it. So now you see I've grown, the deck collection reviews, the close-up reviews, it started with the Gypsy Witch when I was preteen, then I catapulted to the Angel deck, all the Doreen Virtue decks, and it's endless amount of oracles. Endless amount. Too much to show here, but they're on my channel. For Rider-Waite-Smith, it was something that I got. It was like the middle. It was not the first deck that I ever started out with. I guess that's what I wanted to show too. In the middle, I understood that, but then I preferred it either had some bling or was more personalized in a style that resonated more with me, maybe a little softer, a little gentler. Maybe it was the influence of all the angels and archangels, like I needed like a little, I don't know what, but you have to ask the question, you know, how did my love of tarot start, and what decks did I start with? Well, that was kind of like my whole journey into this whole thing, and now I see it embodied so much because I've always also just loved art and creativity and expression, and so when you love the images, and every deck shows through the artwork a different representation of the card, then I started going down that rabbit hole, and so it's like eye candy. It's so interesting to me how different cards are depicted. So I do have a lot of decks, and yeah, and everybody has their own aesthetic preference. So yeah, but this was this was my journey. This is how my love for tarot began. This is why I have so many decks to this day, and these are the decks that I started with, like how it all flowed out. Okay, so I just wanted to leave this. This has come up a lot of times, so I just wanted to share with you, and I wish you the best with whatever tarot decks and oracle decks get you started. The best way to get started is just to get started, because it comes so much quicker. It's such a shorthand, and everybody reads differently. I always say on every video. So, you know, take what you want from other people, but you know, everybody naturally reads different. Everybody has personal tastes. I say definitely gravitate to the styles, what you're naturally attracted to. I always say the deck finds you. It's like a relationship. I call them my babies. They're like your babies, you know. Yeah, so, you know, go with whatever you feel guided to is usually the way to go. And I wish you the best and a lot of joy, because this does bring a lot of joy to your life. And there are no words for what it brings to your life, actually. So that's another video. Take care. Bye-bye.